Hello, welcome to the third part of Sahara conflict history. Now, the responsible person is the one who allowed this vermin of local officials to act like lions in the desert and now left them to fend for himself. This responsibility can fall upon no other entity than Moroccan administration itself and must be accounted by the entire system, by all those officials, all those representatives, and generally by those who had the rights and capability of doing something about it. Requital had to be taken against this state that was unable or worse, unwilling to protect its most deprived citizens, especially when theirs could claim to having been among the most faithful. The decision became an ideal and even a myth, then unfortunately over time became an illusion giving rise to a full-fledged nightmare. In the early 1970s, these young university students from the Sahara had legitimate political, economic, and social demands, but they were domestic in nature and operated in a strictly Moroccan framework. Their demands came to the fore at a difficult time in Moroccan history when the government was facing tough external and internal pressure. It can be said without doubt that at that time, during the 1970s, there was no power nor any political forces in Morocco that could positively respond to a demand of a regional nature as legitimate as it might be. At that time, Morocco was facing enormous internal and external challenges. Priorities were elsewhere, given the circumstances of the period. They were marked by the antagonistic context of Cold War, as well as continuous and interminable inter-Arab conflicts. For this reason, a part of this group of students from the Sahara studying in Rabat was moving by a spirit of vengeance following the repression of the demonstration in Tantan. The following incarcerations and ensuing ill treatment. The ill treatment led these young men to enter into alliances with other countries in a context of the Cold War and inter-Arab and inter-African conflicts. At that time, such alliances were permissible. They expressed their vengeance against their country of origin, in other words, Morocco, from whence all their ancestors came. Their parents struggled tirelessly in the liberation army to free the country from the nation where these young people from the Sahara did their studies. Their fathers defended with force Sultan Muhammad V and swore allegiance to his son, the late King Hassan II. A bit more understanding would have been better. It shouldn't be forgotten that it was the Moroccan authorities who initiated the ill treatment, torture, and persecution of these young students during the demonstration in Tantan in 1972, and were also behind two attempted government overthrows. That is the picture of the great contradictions of Morocco in the 1970s. Nevertheless, all these riots had no effect on the normal course of history simply because the Sahara affair has to do with decolonization between Morocco and Spain. Morocco had to gradually and in successive steps recuperate that part of the territory under Spanish administration, beginning with the north and Tangier in 1956, Tarfaya and Tantan in 1958, Sidi Ifni in 1969, and the Sahara in 1975. The adversaries of Morocco, who aided and abetted the conflict in the Sahara and opposed Morocco's territorial integrity by funding and helping the Polisario, prepared in advance this opposition to Morocco. This led to Algeria's acceptance of this movement on its territory in Tindouf due to the differences existing and at that time between Morocco and Algeria with regard to common borders, and after Morocco signed an agreement with Spain in compliance with the historical relations that had always existed between the two countries. Moreover, Morocco recovered its Sahara through negotiations and consensus in accordance with the usual process of dialogue and negotiation followed with Spain. With Morocco having recovered its southern provinces, the Polisario found nothing better to do than to park the Sahrawi population in camps set up on Algerian territory. These were called refugee camps and were occasionally referred to under fictitious names such as the camps of L'Ayoun, Smara, Awsat, or Dakhla. The Polisario withheld information and manipulated the segment of the population placed in Tindouf, Algeria. All Sahrawi know that in November and December 1975, the Polisario asked many people to attend the meetings in Giltat Zemmour, and when they came, they were asked them to organize another meeting in Bir al-Hlo. Thereafter, they were invited to come to Tindouf in the hope of trapping them and never letting them out, mainly due to the lack of means of transport. They did get trapped in Tindouf and had to remain there. Many realized their predicament and did everything they could to return home to Samara, L'Ayoun, Dakhla, and Awsat. All Sahrawi, at least those who were over 15 years of age at that time, remember this. The Polisario planned and carried out the setting up of camps on Algerian territory. Why did the Polisario create these camps and keep them adrift in territory that is not their own by taking people with no identity cards hostage and not letting them move? These populations were under surveillance night and day by the Polisario, which would recruit their children in schools through a curriculum based on preaching hate and despair. One asks oneself what reasons led the heads of the Polisario to hold people against their will in these camps for over 30 years now. What is their real objective? Are these people being used as bargaining chips? It is easy to conclude that without the existence of these camps, there never would have been a political military movement called Polisario. The existence of the Polisario is connected to the very existence of these camps, but this policy does not have any reasonable or even tangible end goal. The very existence of these camps on a hostile territory and the subhuman conditions in which they have operated for over such a long period is a flagrant infringement on human rights. Thanks for listening and watching to the third part of Sahara conflict history. Goodbye.